All right, welcome to the June 5th, 2024 Oakdale Economic Development Commission regular meeting. We're going to take roll call. Jeff.
Here.
Bobby.
Here.
Dave. Tony.
Here.
Frank.
Here.
Stacy. Gary.
Here.
Robert.
Here.
And Payne. All right, we are going to move to the Pledge of Allegiance. Frank, if you'd like to lead us.
Sure. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, on to the approval of agenda. Hopefully everyone has reviewed the minutes from the February meeting. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
I'll move that.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Oh, sorry, that was for the agenda. Now we'll approve the minutes. Any discussions or corrections to motion or to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Motion carries. All right, we will move on to the open forum, which we will start the open forum with the advisory body training for the EDC, which is presented by City Administrator Chris Volkers, City Clerk Sara Ludwig, and City Attorney Jim Thomson.
Hi, Madam Chair, Commissioners, thanks for having me. What we're going to do is the council asked for us to do some standard training and talk about a lot of things that have to do with your jobs as commissioners. And we've done this with 4, maybe of 5 commissions, 3 of 5. So you're the 4th. Is that right? You're the 4th of 5. So bear with us. You know, we kind of jump all over, but we'll try to be very succinct here. Please interrupt us if you have any questions. Don't wait till the end, okay? We'll also offer, there's a couple places we pause in here, but feel free to interrupt us. What we're going to talk about today is a little bit about the city as a whole, and then we're going to talk about your agendas and kind of the rules surrounding that. You know, our city code outlines exactly how we're supposed to handle meetings, and that applies to the commissions as well. And so the council's interested in more consistency. And it's been unfair to all of you because we haven't provided this information until now. So we want to take the time to do it. When we're done, what we're going to do from now on is any new commissioner will get trained in July after their appointment. And so you won't have to sit through this every July, but every July we will do another training for those who haven't been through it. So you'll all have the same information, okay? We're going to emphasize a lot about working with your council liaison, which is Noah, her, and then it's also Max as your staff liaison. And we want to encourage any conversation to be among them, between you and them, and not as a group, because there are open meeting laws, and we'll talk about that as well. Okay, so I'm going to do a little bit. We're going to pop to Sara. She'll do the details of the agenda, et cetera. And then Jim Thomson is our city attorney for Oakdale, and he's our parliamentarian, and he will go over Robert's rules and all the state laws concerning open meeting and so forth, okay? So before I get started, any questions or anything? All right. Okay, so thank you again for being here, and thank you for giving us the time, and we'll move this along as quickly as possible. The agenda today, we're going to talk about city information. We're going to, like I mentioned, we're going to talk about boards and commissions 101, just kind of why you here, and the structure1around that, meeting information, legal information. I'll jump back and do communications, and then we'll open it up for questions. City information, 1 mayor, 4 council members, 5 member elected a council. You've got Mayor Zabel here. Noah Herr is your liaison. Oh, wait, I got the wrong one here. Okay, I'm going to go back to that. There's the pictures here. Councilmember Ingebrigtsen, he has been on the council a while. He is up for election but is not running, he has continued to say. Councilmember Morcombe, he's new. He's only been on the council, well, he's elected a little over a year ago. And then Councilmember Willenbring has been on the council for quite a while. So if we go back, the city has a mission, vision, core values statement that they wrote a long time ago, well before my time, well before I think, any of the council members' times too. We are working on a strategic planning effort, and we are going to be updating this. And I expect that that will be a conversation with you along the way as well. Currently, though, the values we use in every hiring or every position that we hire, we advertise it with employees, we talk about it in any HR matters. The mission statement probably needs a little work because it's a little old, but you can see it there. I'm not going to read it to you, but the core values, we really do believe that these are kind of what we do, why we're here. We're here to serve employees. We are here to serve commissioners. That's what you're here to do too, is to provide the public's perspective. And in doing that, the respect, responsibility, sustainability, excellence, integrity, innovation, it's words we really need to live by, and we do. Organizational chart for the city. We've got the elected body, who are the policymakers, the mayor and council. They hire a city administrator who runs the operations, essentially, for the city, who's responsible for that, and I report directly to them. And then we've got the city attorney who's on contract with the city. I work with them. Our directors work with them all the time. The council approves this contract. He provides all our legal advice on everything. So if you ever have a situation, a question, anything that you're thinking might be a conflict or anything like that, you want to talk to your staff liaison, who will connect through to our city attorney to help with that, okay? And then we've got the commissions, and what you guys are here for is to support the council. They appoint you. We staff are not giving you direction. It does say in the city code that you will take direction from me or the council, but it is a council's role. You are you're their appointee. And many of you, when you did your interviews, I was there, of course, but just to provide support, and that's what I'm here for, is to provide support to the residents and to the elected officials, and to help the staff however they need that, and be the liaison. So that's kind of our organizational structure. Does anybody have any questions about that? Okay, staff leadership. So this is our internal operational leadership. So as I'm Chris Volkers, and we did the introduction. Andy Gitzoff, you know Andy, he is a community development director. Communications manager is Lori Polkerbeck. She used to be a council member for 20 years, and she's been employed with us for a few years now, and she's wonderful. Everybody on this team is wonderful. Kyle is our new finance director, and he has been promoted. He was our accounting manager before, and now he's our finance director. The fire chief, Kevin Wold, is wearing 2 hats right now. He's doing public works also. Don't ask him about it. He's not overly happy about that. He's helping us out, but it's hard. Human resource director, Melanie Lee, police chief, Nick Newton, and our recreation superintendent, Julie, and that is our management team. So that's the structure, very high level. I just wanted to make sure that I was clear that the policy is the council, we're operations, city staff, we work together, and that's why it works in Oakdale, because we have a team environment, and we're very proud of that. So any questions about that? No? Okay. So I'm going to let Sara take over the boards and commissions.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you for allowing me to be here. So as Chris said, I am the city clerk, and I'm going to go over boards and commissions 101 and then meetings 101. So I'll start here with the boards and commissions. The city of Oakdale has 5 advisory bodies. We have a tree board, a planning commission, Parks and Recreation Commission, the Economic Development Commission, and the Environmental Management Commission. Each advisory body is assigned a staff liaison. Our city planner, Luke McClanahan, is the staff liaison for the Planning Commission. We have 2 staff liaisons for the Parks and Recreation Commission, Recreation Superintendent Julie Williams, and then Parks Superintendent Jeff Klusling. You all know Max, he's the staff liaison for your commission. And then Community Development Specialist Hannah Dunn is the staff liaison for the Environmental Management Commission. And then currently, we have Chief Wold acting as the staff liaison for our tree board, but once we fill the position of city forester, that person will then be the tree board staff liaison. So Chris alluded to this a little bit. So why do we have advisory bodies? You all are here to advise the city council, and also we want to allow a way for residents to have meaningful participation in local government. There are a few guiding documents that the advisory bodies follow. First is the city code. So each advisory body has a dedicated section in their city code. I believe Chris will touch on that at the end of the presentation. There is also a city policy specifically dedicated to our advisory bodies, and that's CC 002. It's City Council Advisory Boards and Commissions. And then lastly, something new that we have heard feedback from you all is that you want a handbook. So you want kind of some guidelines on general policies and procedures, and we are working on finalizing that. And that will be sent out electronically once we do have that finalized. There are a few things that advisory bodies do. So as we've mentioned, providing feedback to the council on initiatives, goals, the annual plan, and any other items that they seek your feedback on. You provide recommendations to the city council, and you also act in ways like participating in city initiatives, projects, events, and other things. So there's a few ways that the work of the advisory body is initiated: through the board and commission itself, through the city council, and then lastly, through the city administrator. And touching on a little bit of the work plan, it is a document that guides and focuses the work of the advisory body, and it's used during the monthly meetings and also throughout the year. It's something that can detail annual ongoing items or specific projects. And annually, each advisory body drafts a work plan, and they take feedback from the city council, which usually occurs during the workshop with the city council. And then once you incorporate that feedback, then you will approve it at your meeting. There are a few things that the advisory bodies do not do. The first thing is direct the work of city staff, take responsibility for the financial performance of city facilities or programs, and this is because commissions and boards do not have financial authority. And then lastly, speaking on behalf of the city or the advisory body without permission or discussion prior. Any questions so far? Okay. There are a few special roles within advisory bodies. First is the chair. They are elected annually at the first meeting of the year, and it's the presiding officer at all meetings. They are the person that's responsible for keeping the meeting moving, assuming everyone has reviewed the material ahead of time. There's also a vice chair, and that person is elected annually as well, and they will preside over the meetings in the chairperson's absence. The staff liaison, which I've touched on, is the support staff for each advisory body. They will attend the meetings, participate in the discussions as appropriate, and they also arrange for the recording of the meetings, they prepare the agenda, and then they take the minutes during the meeting. The council liaison is a member of the council that is assigned to the advisory body. They also attend the regular meetings. They provide any updates from the council to the advisory body, but then of course they go the other way and they provide information from your meetings back to the council. And then lastly, we have ex officio members, and that's a specific designation for a member, such as a student, and that person is non-voting. And then looking here at the annual calendar for advisory bodies, at the first meeting, as I mentioned, you'll vote on your officers, chair and vice chair. And then in January or February, depending on meeting schedules, there's an appreciation event with the city council, and that's where you will likely discuss your work plan with them. And then in July, we have our new member orientation or training, and then also that's when the new terms begin for those members who have been reappointed. And then lastly, in the fourth quarter, you're going to be working on that annual work plan that you'll be discussing with the council. All right. Question? Yes.
Okay. Is it a good objective to try and get the council or the commissions to turn over? You know, some people have been here. Bob and I have been here for what, 20 years or so. Is it probably a good idea to rotate? I mean, I don't know.
I wouldn't say we would want, to kick people off of the commissions at all. That if you're passionate about what you're doing, if you're dedicated, absolutely continue to come and share your thoughts and ideas. Never would we say, all right, you're done. Okay.
There was a period one time when they turned over a couple of, they started a new policy. I mean, this is years ago. They started a new policy where after 3 years, 5 years, whatever, I can't remember, they would eliminate a person, give them a walking papers, basically, and then, try and get somebody new on the commission. And it didn't work very well because they got rid of about 2 or 3 people, and that was it. And they never did anymore because they think they might have had trouble filling those positions.
Gotcha.
So, anyway, but I just want to say, Bob and I have been here since about 1985. Right, Bob?
All of that.
Yes.
So,
no, yeah.
I mean, if you think we're getting old and worn out or something, I mean, you probably should let us know.
That will not come from me.
We can gracefully retire.
Frank, I think in my opinion, there's value to have that background and educational experience to contribute.
Well, we've got it. Okay. All right. That's my question.
Yep. Any other questions? Okay. All right. Now we're going to discuss commission meetings and what you guys need to know about those. So commission meetings 101. There are a few types of meetings. For our advisory bodies, though, regular meetings are going to be the most common type, and those have the established cadence of the dates and the times and the place. Your meetings, of course, are the first Wednesday of each month, excluding January, April, July, and October, beginning at 5:15 here in our council chambers. As we talked about, Max, or the staff liaison, will take the minutes, and then, of course, the meetings are recorded. There are a few key components of minutes, and these guidelines follow Robert's Rules of Order, which is what we use through our meetings. So with that, the minutes will have the meeting name, date, time, and place. They'll have who was in attendance at the meeting. They'll have the approval or corrections of any previous minutes, any motions that were made, including who made the motion and then who provided that second, a summary of what happened, any other action that was taken as well, and then generally speaking, the minutes will be a record of what was done, not what was said. Looking at the agenda, as I mentioned, the staff liaison in consultation with the chair will create the agenda. We do ask that all of our advisory body members come prepared, so that's reviewing the agenda and any related materials prior, coming with your questions, emailing Max ahead of time with any comments or questions is okay as well. And then following the agenda, so keeping on that order of business, this is what our typical agenda will look like. We'll have the header, which includes that name, date, type of meeting, and place. And then the body will go through the order of business here. So you'll have your call to order, which will be done by the chair. The call of roll is a verbal call out of each member's name. And then we do ask that the staff liaison performs that roll call. The Pledge of Allegiance, the approval of the agenda, which would be as presented or as amended. Same with the minutes, as presented or as amended. And then we have the open forum period, which I know is something new for our advisory bodies. So that's a time for public comment. And we do ask that it is run in the same manner as our city council, which follows our city policy MIS 014. And that's just to allow members of the public to speak. So we ask, even if you don't see anybody here, please still open up that time to just ensure that everyone understands there is a time and place to come and speak at meetings. The Economic Development Commission review, old business.
I got it.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, I just saw this. So for the open forum, is there any consideration for remote attendance, or does this have to be in-person attendance? I know this has come up in other venues, and I thought I'd just ask it here.
I'm looking to our city attorney to see what the response might be. Okay. Yeah. Or Chris.
Question, Jeff.
Pick a topic, didn't I?
So have you been reading the paper about other cities that have opened up council meetings and commissions remote? They've had some problems with that. People showing up and then remote that aren't even from the area, from the state, could be elsewhere. And they call it Zoom bombing, yes. And it becomes unruly, and then it's bad with swearing and all this other stuff. So anyway, my point is that has happened in many, many, many cities. Just Google it. And in St. Paul, Minneapolis, Pioneer Press, Star Tribune. So I don't know if that's a reason, because I'm not going to speak for the council, but that certainly is a reason that staff has not proposed that at this point.
Okay.
Until that settles down, yeah.
I know with the COVID pandemic and people staying working remote, that was a common occurrence, but
Right.
I think we're trying to get back to more of a normal, presentable access, and I personally love seeing the person face to face, so it's a lot easier to understand them that way too, I find.
There are, for us, there's open meeting law concerns that were waived or reduced, or the requirements were reduced during the pandemic because of the pandemic. But,
Okay, yeah.
some of these meetings we have to have in public. If you work remote, or you attend a meeting remote as a commissioner, technically you have to open up your home for people to come in. So it doesn't.
That is an excellent point. In fact, our city attorney can address that when he's talking about you guys and council, right? Doing remote. You're absolutely right.
I don't know nearly as well, but there are open meeting law concerns.
Okay,
That's true.
I don't know about open forum public, but at least for us.
yeah. So I was just, I was aware of such situations, and I thought I knew what we were going to do, but I just wanted to clarify, make it clear.
Good question.
Clear.
We'll ask the city attorney, though, to address that about you guys and about council being remote. There are rules about that, but we can go over that, no problem. Okay, thanks.
All right, thank you. So the Economic Development Commission review any new business that'll be formally coming before the council, for the commission for the first time. And then under the other section, we have a few updates. So your staff liaison may provide an update on other matters outside of agenda items. Commissioner update is the time for you all to be able to share any updates that you may have. And then, of course, the council liaison update will be the time for your council liaison to share those updates that I had mentioned earlier. And then we have adjournment, which does require a motion and a second. Moving on to attendance and recruitment. Attendance is important, of course, to perform the work of the commissioner board. And chronic absences may lead to member removal. Current commission members, city council, city staff, and staff liaisons all play a role in recruiting members. And then ideally, we want to make sure the advisory body rosters remain full.
Where are we at right now? Are we at a full roster?
I believe we have 2 vacancies.
Yeah.
2 vacancies here?
Yeah. All right, we're moving on to a quorum. So a quorum is the minimum number of voting members that must be present in order for the advisory body to conduct business. And then if a quorum is present at the beginning of the meeting, the quorum must be maintained throughout the meeting in order for the advisory body to conduct business. All right. So ethical and respectful conduct, we do ask that you please avoid speaking over or cutting off another individual, insulting, disparaging, or putting people down or their ideas, bullying any other members or members of the public by making demeaning, judging, or patronizing comments. And then throughout the meeting, again, we just ask that the chair maintain order. And then things to strive for ethical and respectful. Oh, yeah.
This ethical and respectful conduct, when you look at TV and you watch our Congress and our senators and local, national,
Not to act.
it's so disgusting. I mean, the good ethics has been gone. It's out the window. And nobody seems to care, and nothing is being done about it. I mean, I don't know what you can do other than flog them. That would be my answer, but what do I know?
That's so old school, to avoid.
Yes.
But it's just so disgusting to see this.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So things to avoid.
We can still set the example, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And represent Oakdale, of course. All right, and so here's what you want to strive for. So you be using Robert's Rules of Order, treating people with kindness, politeness, and courtesy, encouraging others to express their opinions and ideas, listening to what they have to say, and then also recognizing that there may be differences in opinions and respecting that. And then lastly, the standards of appearance and etiquette. So business casual dress is appropriate at commission meetings. Speak clearly into the microphone for the best audio quality. Do not speak until called upon by the chair, which just helps maintain that order. And then lastly, remaining quiet when the on-air sign is turned on prior to the meeting and then after adjournment. So any questions before I turn it over to our city attorney? Okay.
Hi, I'm Jim Thomson. I'm the city attorney. I've been the city attorney since 2010. I'm with a private law firm named Kenny and Graven. The city contracts with our law firm to do civil work, so I'm not an employee. Yeah, enough said about that. So the first thing, I drew the short straw on this and was told I have to give you all the details of Robert's rules. So we're going to show a little video on that. The main thing to keep in mind on Robert's rules, and it goes a little bit along with your comment, that Robert's rules are designed to help you run an efficient meeting. They're not designed to have obstructions and interference with your meetings, which is a lot of the rules that are in the Senate and the Congress. They use all these rules to obstruct stuff going on. That's not the purpose of Robert's rules. The purpose of Robert's rules is to help you facilitate an orderly meeting and get things done, not to impede things from getting done. That's at the local level. That's pretty much the case. We don't have too much problems with interference at the local level. Okay. Yep.
Okay, cool.
So I got a short video that gives you the basics of Robert's rules and.
On Robert's Rules of Order to ensure that all meetings run effectively. This video will go through the basics of Robert's Rules and how they work to make meetings more efficient. To keep meetings on track, all orders of business are organized in an agenda that lists the various items that will be discussed. At the beginning of our meetings, members will vote on the adoption of this agenda. Only after the agenda is adopted can the meeting proceed. At the core of Robert's Rules is the creation of motions, which are formal proposals for an organization's membership to take a stance or take action on a certain issue. To make a motion, you must first obtain the floor. To do so, you must wait for the chairperson to call on you after the last speaker has spoken. When making a motion, ensure that it is clear, concise, and stated in the affirmative. This is not the time to elaborate on your motion or try to motivate for it. You will get the opportunity to justify your motion during the discussion period. However, before discussion can begin, another individual must second your motion. Otherwise, it is lost. Note, you don't have to be in support of a motion in order to second it. Seconding simply means that you would like to see further debate and discussion happen. If your motion has been moved and seconded, it is placed before members for consideration and debate. The mover is always allowed to speak first and is given the opportunity to justify their motion. During discussion, only one speaker may speak at a time. At any point during the discussion, an individual can move to amend or modify a motion saying, "I move to amend the motion," followed by the changes they wish to make. After all discussion and amendments have taken place, members will vote by a show of hands whether or not they support the motion. If the majority of members vote yes, then the motion passes.
As I'm in the midst of applying for residency right now, wish me luck, Grammarly has again been
Just hit the arrow to go. Okay, so the one thing that's different on that you don't do is you just don't vote. You don't vote by a show of hands. You have ayes and nays, but that's intended for like a large body, like a town association or something like that. So that's the basics. You probably know them. In your case, most of your motions will be motions to recommend something to the city council, and in the staff reports, typically they'll have suggested wording that you can rely on to do that. You don't have to use that wording if you want to do something else, but at least it gives you a head start on the framework to make a motion. So enough said about Robert's rules, and I hope you don't have any questions. No, I'm happy to have me. Let me know. Okay. All right, quickly, the role of the chairperson. Sara sort of already covered this, but the chairperson resides at the official meetings and makes sure the group reviews and acts upon the items that are on the agenda. And the chair also is expected to ensure that decisions are made in a timely manner, but careful not to limit discussion, assuring that both members of the public and the board and commissions have ample opportunity to speak. All right, so now what I'm going to go into is really 4 laws that apply to you as commission members that didn't apply to you no matter how long ago you were appointed, but didn't apply to you before you became a commission member. If you're just a resident, you're not governed by these laws. Now that you're on a board or a commission, specifically Economic Development Commission, these laws now apply to you. So all I want to do is make you aware of them. I'm not going to go into a lot of details, just so you know about them. In case any questions come up, you can certainly work through Max and they can, run them by me. So the first one, which I'm sure you're all familiar with, is the open meeting law. And what that purpose of that is to prohibit actions from being taken at secret meetings, ensures that the public's right to be informed, and allows the public an opportunity to present its views to the public body. So the open meeting law has been around now since over 50 years, a long time. Okay, you would think that
I'm just curious. A lot of times there's been problems with council people or people in authority meeting after hours in a bar, having a drink. Mm-hmm. What's the legalities there?
Okay. Hold that question. We're going to get to a slide and we can talk about that, if that's okay. Not that specific issue about going to bars. But, okay, just hang on to that.
Sure.
Okay. So you would think that a new law that comes into place known as the open meeting law would define what a meeting is, but the legislature didn't do that. They adopted a law that says, make sure all your meetings are open, but they didn't define the term. So in 1983, the Minnesota Supreme Court defined it for us, and it is defined as a meeting as a gathering of a quorum or more, in that case it was a city council, at which they discuss, decide, receive information as a group on matters relating to city business. I'm going to stop there, and I'll go back to your question, okay? If a majority of a commission is at a bar and go out and socialize, don't talk about city business, it's not a meeting, okay? Now, having said that, word of caution, okay? When I go out with my friends and talk we talk about things we have in common, all right? What do you all have in common? You're members of a commission. So there's a tendency that 3 or 4 of you gathered, you might be talking about something involving the city. Now, maybe not something that would come before you. So that's the risk. The risk is that. Now, is it illegal? No. Is it sometimes create a perception? Perhaps. And I advise the council of this, it's not so much yours, is normally open meeting law issues don't come up unless a person is mad at the city council about something else, okay? They're mad about a decision, and somehow they glom on, well, I know this wasn't made in a public meeting. They use open meeting law as a sort of a claim, but they're really mad about something else. The only entities that really follow the open meeting law are the news media, right? They're in it. That's their. They do it for, I don't want to say cause. It's too much, but it only comes up incidentally, normally, not of the time. Okay, so that's the definition of a meeting. Keep in mind, it does not include the phrase at which a vote is taken and a decision is made. Sometimes you hear that. Definition of meeting occurs if you discuss city business as a group. Don't have to make a decision. Now, in 1983, there was no such thing as an electronic meeting because we didn't have these types of electronics we had back then. So the court didn't have to deal with what an electronic meeting is. So that leads us to the main one I'm going to talk about is e-devices, emails. And so the question is, what about emails? Are they a meeting? And I'm not going to get into too much legalese for you on this, but there's actually a conflict in the rules on that. And I shouldn't say the rules, the decisions. There's a Court of Appeals decision called O'Keefe versus Carter from 2012 that said no. Now, I'll go into that in a second. And there's the IPAD advisory opinion. IPAD is a state agency that gives opinions out on open meeting law and Data Practices Act, and they disagreed. So in the court decision, the court concluded that email exchanges are not meetings because, relying on the 1983 court decision, they believe the court meant that a meeting assumes that the law applies to only in-person meetings, not written communications. So that was the court's decision. Unpublished means it's not precedential. You don't have to follow it. Then there was an IPAD opinion from 2009 saying that emails among members of a joint powers board that happened to be Metro Gang Strike Task Force concerning the need for and contents of a press release did violate the open meeting law. Now, let me back up. Quickly, what happened in this case was there was someone was asked, the executive director or whatever the title was of the Metro Gang board, we're going to post this story. You have any comments on it? The administrator calls all the board members. They all relay and say yes, no, and then there's a decision made, and there's a press release issued. Well, the IPAD office said, "Oh, wait a minute, there had to have been a meeting. This is a meeting because a decision was made and it didn't get made in the public arena." So, IPAD takes a pretty conservative viewpoint on this. So, what's my advice? Don't rely on the Court of Appeals decision with respect to email, with respect to the open meeting law, treat emails or tweets or text messages or anything else, treat them like a phone call, all right? If you all get on a conference call to talk about an upcoming agenda item, that's a meeting. You're all gathered together, not physically gathered, but you're gathered as a group to talk about it. So if you treat emails and text messages like a phone call, I think that's the safest advice. Now, keep in mind, a one-way email, you communicating to another member or quorum of the board, is not a communication. So a one-way email is not by itself a problem, but we got that doggone reply to all button on our computers, and once you hit the reply to all button, that's when you can get into trouble, because now all of a sudden you're talking about something. So, even a one-way email can sometimes turn into a series of events that could be, hopefully might constitute a meeting. What's the advice? Work through your staff liaison. If you have a communication, work through Max, and that's a lot safer. Now, one other thing, emails between commission members, or almost even emails from you and staff, they're almost always going to be public data, which I'll get into in a second. So now that means if someone requests those types of emails, you'd have to produce them. It doesn't mean we have to go out there and put them on the website. But when you write emails, keep that in the back of your mind that someday somebody might request emails or all the data relating to the XYZ project that came before you, and all of a sudden you get some emails where you might have been more blunt than you otherwise would have been had you, if you thought it was a private email. So that's enough about open meeting law. Another potential issue that sometimes comes up, is you're on your way out of the meeting or come to a meeting, you meet in the parking lot, you start talking, be careful of that, those types of situations. Okay. Second law, Data Practices Act, all right? When you were a private resident, just a private resident, nobody, your letters, your everything, there's no law that governs those, okay? But now you are governed by the Data Practices Act, which is a very detailed statute. and it governs all government data. Government data is data relating to city business is the best way to put it. The one thing I want to reinforce or enforce is that government data does not depend on where it's located. It depends on what the topic of the data is. So if you know you have a government city issued phone or a city issued computer, and you text your spouse and say, "Do I need to pick up a quart of milk on the way home tonight?" That's not government data. Okay, it's on a government piece of equipment, but it doesn't relate to city business. All right. Contrary, if you're on your own iPhone and you're texting or texting primarily or emailing about something relating to city business, that's government data. It doesn't matter that it's on your private cell phone. So just keep that in mind. It's not the location of the data, it's what the data is about. Yeah. So now, you're not going to have any much issues with the Data Practices Act because you don't get too much confidential stuff. The one thing I always point out, and this, I guess this could come before the Economic Development Commission, but when somebody calls or texts the city or emails the city and said, "I got the house next door to me is full of junk," it's a property complaint data. The identity of that person making the complaint is not public. So if you were to ever get that type of communication, just keep in mind that the identity of the person who's contacting you is not public, it's private. Okay, that's really it on the Data Practices Act. Again, if you ever have any questions, work through Max, but you're not going to run into this issue very much. Okay, the third thing is conflict of interest. Again, now you have a law, or it's not technically a law, it's a principle that any member of an advisory body who has a financial interest in or may receive a financial benefit as a result of a decision potentially has a conflict of interest. I shouldn't say potentially. If you have a financial interest in the matter, you do have a conflict of interest, okay? And therefore you can't participate in matters that matter. If you do have one, disclose it and then abstain from discussing or voting. I doubt that it comes up very much. It comes up in the city council periodically. So just keep that in the back of your mind. But if you're a brother-in-law or your a cousin twice removed comes before you for something, if you don't have any financial interest, that's not a conflict of interest.
That's like personal financial interest. For me, for instance, if I'm a lender and I have a loan involved with anything, that's not personal interest, yet I'm working for the institution that could be financing it, which there's a benefit for the institution, not me personally, right? That would be considered okay? Okay. Under this one, it would. Now, let me tell you about the other one. Okay, all right. There are situations that are that are somewhat where you could have a conflict of interest, even though you don't have a financial interest. An example would be if you're chair of a local nonprofit organization or some nonprofit organization or private organization, and that organization comes before you for some type of action. Now, you wouldn't have a personal financial interest in it, but the question is, what hat are you wearing are you wearing your Economic Development Commissioner's hat, or are you wearing your I'm the president of this organization, I really want this to be approved hat? Probably a conflict of interest, okay? Even though you don't have now, your case, it's not exactly that. So, but there are situations where you could have that. Now, so having said all those two things, you're hired, you're appointed, you volunteered to participate in these meetings and vote. That's your main job, just like the council member's main job is to come to council meetings and vote on stuff. So you don't want to abstain unless you have a good reason to. So there are situations where if it's a close call and you just prefer, for appearance sakes, you didn't want to have an appearance of impropriety that you feel it's more appropriate to abstain, you could do that. Sure. Yep. Okay, so conflict of interest. Again, if you get an agenda item and you say, "Oh, wait a minute, check with Max. He'll check with me, and we'll, let you know ahead of time." That happens
I shouldn't say all the time, but it comes up at city council ahead of time, and they ask me, and I tell them one way or the other, so. Okay, and then the last one, there's also a gift law that now applies to you, which says just basically you can't receive a gift from any interested person in conjunction with your advisory duties. An interested person is anyone who is interested in the outcome of a decision, okay? Don't let them, they can't give you a gift, okay? So if some applicant is coming before you and wants to take you out to lunch before the mission, that would constitute a gift. So again, those types of things don't come up very much. The kind of the way I think about this is, if you think somebody's giving you something because you're a member of the Economic Development Commission, probably a gift, all right? And, you know, we're not talking about relatives and that sort of thing. So probably enough said about that. I think that's, yeah, so I'm gonna go back. So those are the laws, you know, high level, you know about them. If you have any questions, feel free to work through your staff liaison and I can help you answer them. Okay, thanks. Oh, I'm sorry. You wanted me to cover the electronic meeting thing for the board, okay? Yeah, during COVID, there was a law already existed. There was an easier way to do remote meetings when there's a pandemic. We all know about that. Now that doesn't exist anymore, but there's still a statute that does allow public bodies to have remote meetings. It's more restricted, and you have to post the meeting 3 days ahead of time saying you're going to do it. Yet where you're going to be has to be accessible to the public. And so, yes, it's possible, but staff needs to know, you know, I would say a week ahead of time so they can get the mechanics in place. Now, having said that, during COVID, the first meeting for the Oakdale City Council, they wanted to try it. Now, let's give it a try. All 4 of the 5 members of the council showed up. One didn't. He was home. He saw that everybody was here, and he drove down. Ever since then, every meeting of the Oakdale Council was in person, even during COVID. Okay, so now they did social distancing. They moved the chairs around. So I can tell you, from the council's perspective, they think that's the right way to do it. So maybe take your lead from that. So there are also procedural issues, like you have to have a roll call vote and all sort of that. But the council, now that's a little different than people appearing. The council did let applicants and consultants, and they all appear, a lot of them appeared remotely, but that's a different question than you appearing remotely. So the council took a very conservative point of view on that and just said, no, let's be here, and that's what they did. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Jim. I don't want to get back to this a little bit, just to clarify one thing. Gary, you were right that if you are going to be remote and you decide you need to for whatever, maybe you're sick and you want to whatever, and you list your home address, that does need to be accessible to the public. You were absolutely right about that. So, and that will go out on the agendas. Gary's remote, his home address is. Feel free to join him there. No, we won't say that, but that is how it works. So you were absolutely right about that. So, okay. Are there any other questions? Frank, did we answer your question about going to the bar?
Pretty much so,
Okay.
yeah. I think
Okay.
That's a fine line, though, isn't it? I mean, would you have to have a quorum if enough people go to the bar? What if just 2 or 3? What if just 2 or 3 guys go and have a brewski after?
Open meeting law only applies to a quorum. So if you have 9, so maybe a quorum. So if 3 of you go out tonight after this and want to go have a beer somewhere, go for it.
Okay.
It only applies if there's a quorum present.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So we're wrapping it up here. Thanks for your attention. Your questions have been great, by the way. Thank you. We're going to talk about communication channels. So we want you to be involved. We want you to stay on top of things. We want to provide the mechanism for you to do that, however it works for you, whether it's email, where Max is sending you emails, or it's phone calls, or social media. And that's what you're seeing up on the screen here. There's all kinds of ways to get information about the city. Here's a list of all our social media pages. I do want to emphasize that on our city website, there is a subscription, and I hope you're each signed up for it. You absolutely should be, at least for your commission, where you get any alerts or any updates on EDC. You can get council, you can get the new public works facility. There's all kinds of options. Of course, as administrator, I just went through and clicked all 1,000 of them, right? And so I get 1,000 alerts, but you might not want to do that. Or you might, but please look at the city website, look at the subscription. All you have to do is in the search bar, go subscription, and it'll pull up how to do that. You just fill in your name, whether you want email or text, that's it. And then pick which subjects you want to do. So I really encourage you to do that. You absolutely should do it for EDC at the very least. So Max can help you get set up on that too, if you need any help. City Council communication. Jim talked a lot about this. Follow them on Facebook. We encourage you to do that. Again, you're here to support them and help them and guide them and provide information to them. They want to hear from you, but they also want you to know what they're doing. So that's one way to do it. We do all these meetings that you certainly know on YouTube. We have council meeting minutes. We have commission minutes. We're standardizing all that. You might have noticed a change recently on the minutes, and we're trying to kind of make them all look the same and do it at high level. We don't capture every word of a conversation. We capture the action items and the summary of it. And so we're getting better. It's always a work in progress. On that annual work plan, is it on your agenda tonight? They're approving your annual work plan. That's a newer thing. So I think, is it on there, Max? Yep. Yeah. Okay. So that's great. Thank you for doing that. The council really appreciates that and really appreciates the discussion that you have with them annually at the dinner, which is one of the ones here. Please continue to attend that. They really like having that conversation with you. It seems to be the best way that we've set up to have a full conversation. We do it as a public meeting because it's a quorum of both your commission and the council. So we're glad to do that. We want to keep doing that. Reach out to your council liaison. Speaking of, Councilmember Hurd just texted me and said, sorry, he forgot to put this new date on his calendar, so he feels awful. He wants you to reach out to him direct if you have any questions, and he is glad to answer that, and he's standing by. In fact, he's watching right now, so I want to extend his apologies for that. Communicating with the public, please. You are representatives of the public. So, from the public to you to council. And so we really need you to talk to them. Talk to your neighbors, talk to whoever, talk to anybody in the grocery store, whatever, at the barbershop. Talk to anybody and get information, find out what they want from the city. See what they want for development. We want to hear this stuff. We are not operating in a vacuum here. We are the city of Oakdale. And staff is here to serve, so you need to bring information to us. Tips, ensure that this is important. Decisions of the advisory body is based on the information you received, not like inside information you have or anything like that. And then when you decide as a group, you move as a group. The decision is a decision. You should represent as a group. That's what our best advice is. It doesn't serve anybody to say, well, they voted for this, but I wanted this, and here's why. Once you deliberate, which you do, right? That's why you're here. You take a vote, you move as a group, you decide as a group. So that's our best advice on that. Engage with the city social media. I talked about that. Reposting, please. We've got a very active mayor on social media. He has all kinds of information. Our fire department, our police department, all kinds of things. Share that on your social media platforms. We want to get the word out. And support the work of the city and commissions. We as staff are trying to do that, and it goes both ways. Tell us what you need from us. Again, we are here to serve. So next steps, we need more folks on the commissions. We need more residents. We need more voices. Talk to your neighbors, talk to your friends, talk to any groups that you belong to that are Oakdale, and encourage them to serve on a commission. We're getting more full, but we're not full. So let's reach out to people. As an EDC commissioner, our economic development commissioner, read chapter 8. Sara mentioned this earlier. That is your guide. That is the rules. There is no bylaws anymore. There's city policy, which kind of talks about what we're doing here, training and appointments and stuff. But chapter 8 of the city code, that outlines what you're here for and what your charge is and what the council expects of you. Please read that. I think you're going to get a book with each of their city codes, or do they get that upon appointment? Yeah. So you should either have that, or we can easily get it to you. Max can get it to you. Mandatory training, we talked about that. Anything else you need, please reach out. That is what we're here for. So any questions?
Thank you. Good job.
Oh, thanks.
Thank you.
Well, great questions. Okay, we're here. If you have anything, let Max know or let me know, and we'll be glad to answer. Okay, thanks.
All right, we're now going to invite members of the public to speak if they wish to do so. And we don't have any members of the public in attendance, so we will close the open forum. All right, next we're going to move into the Economic Development Commission review, and we'll first start with old business. And I'm going to turn it over to Max to talk about our Business Retention, Expansion, and Attraction, or BREA, program update.
Thanks, Erin. So I'm excited to share with you some of the first business visits for this year's Business Retention, Expansion, and Attraction program cycle. We have a lot of visits to cover since we last met in February, as we started our visits right after February. So I've got 7 of them here for you tonight. So I thought I would go through quickly what we've heard from each business at a bit of a faster pace than we have in the past, but still make sure that we hit the concerns of each business that we've met with in the past few months. So the first business retention visit of the year occurred on February 9th at Home Furniture. Home is a Midwest-based furniture store with 17 locations, with the Oakdale site being one of the newest. As some of you might remember, back from 2022, the Home Furniture site is an adaptive reuse project that used a pre-existing movie theater. And you can see some of the creative reuse features when visiting. Can I get the staff presentation on screen? Generally, Home told us that approximately 50 people work there at the location, and they were seeking tenants for 2 pad sites on the property. They anticipated hiring a few more people for next year and felt that the business was generally going well. With regard to the Oakdale location, Home praised the police and fire in our city and felt that the general access that they have off of 694 was really good for their business, and they want to continue to do good business in Oakdale. And feel free to interrupt me at any point if you have any questions as well.
Just curious on the 2, or they were still inquiring for the 2 new tenants? Was there any interest?
They are. Back in 2022, there was talks of a brewery. That project fell through, but they are still in the process of talking right now. So for the second visit on February 20, we visited All Family Dental, which is located by 11th Street in Hadley near the waters of Oakdale. Generally, they said business was going well. They noted there were some major changes in the dentistry industry, including that dental insurance often doesn't cover some of the main procedures people get these days, and many of the procedures covered have been the same since the 70s. Combined with increasing overhead costs, they said that it creates issues for a lot of dental offices, but they still found that income is consistent and they're doing well in Oakdale. They have 9 employees, and they plan to have 1 or 2 more in the next year. They say that most of their patients drive, but some older patients had issues with accessibility and would walk or take Metro Mobility, so they remain open to improving alternatives for people to get over there. And with regard to Oakdale, again, we're hearing a lot of positive things about the location and accessibility, and said that we could do more work to promote ourselves as a destination. So next we have Canvas Health, which the city visited on March 15th. Canvas is near Hadley and Stillwater and provides mental and behavioral health care for mental health issues and substance use. They're a nonprofit that's certified as a community behavioral health clinic, which allows them to have more funding and services and connect with clients through government programs. They have 140 staff in Oakdale, with 327 in total. And Oakdale is sort of their main admin hub, and they do have more hires planned as well. Generally, they were satisfied with transportation, but noticed that some clients who weren't eligible for Metro Mobility had issues with Metro Transit Link, which is like an on-demand service that can have a couple-hour wait for if you need service somewhere where the bus doesn't serve. Like others, Canvas was very happy with the location and accessibility of Oakdale and their specific office, and didn't have many critiques for us. Then we met up with Marcus Theaters in Oakdale, over in the northern end of the city by 694 and 36. Marcus Theaters actually goes back to 1935 with the Oakdale location opening in 2000. We visited March 19th, and they told us that they were doing well. They noted that a lot of big changes had occurred in theaters like Marcus in recent years, including switching from stadium-style seating to more of those larger recliner chairs you see in a lot of the newer theaters. The addition of more food options than there were 10, 15 years ago, alcohol, and screen sizes as well. Generally, they felt that theaters had recovered quite a bit from COVID, but they noted that the actor strike and the holiday season hurt quite a bit. They stated they had 86 employees and would be hiring floor staff and shift leads this year. They said they had issues with finding employees, much like many other employers, especially for food and beverage roles, which can be really hard to fill. And they really praised that Hadley roundabout that went in and said that it helped with the traffic flow issues up in that area. And they wanted to see better bus service in the future. They really liked their location off of the two highways, and from their experience getting a liquor license a few years ago, they really said that the council was great to work with and that staff seemed overall very friendly to businesses in Oakdale. All right, just a few more here. Next, we visited Open Cupboard on April 3rd, which is located off 4th Street by Guardian Angels. This is a nonprofit food shelf that serves more than 4,900 families each week. They have considered considerable increases in demand in recent years, with more than 1,000% growth during the height of the pandemic, and still a 28% year-over-year increase from 2023 to 2024. They have 8 full-time employees, 8 part-time, and then more than 850 volunteers. They have delivery services, drive-up services, and in-person food shelf options. They spoke very highly of working with the residents of Oakdale, noting that many of their volunteers worked here and wanted to serve here or lived here. They did suggest that we could improve transit access in their area, as some people who were disabled and needed food had trouble getting to their storefront. Next up, on April 17th, we visited Superior Third Party Logistics, which operates that brand new warehouse in the Forefront campus. If Annie attended the bus tour, we took a look at the warehouse when we were at the Forefront campus. So they operate a general distribution center with inventory management, returns, and other warehousing operations. They said they did really well during the pandemic due to increased shipping demand, but it leveled out somewhat. They had 60 full-time staff for Oakdale and plan to hire another 10 to 20 laborers. And they really appreciated Oakdale's public safety team and appreciated the accessibility and visibility of their location off 694 and 34th Street, though they said that better business access will be needed around Forefront as it continues to develop out in the next few years. And then for our last business visit summary today, we have Game Related, which occurred about 2 weeks ago, which is located off of Hadley and Century in the northwestern end of Oakdale. Game Related primarily focuses on game retail and hosting tournaments for board games and trading card games. They reported that generally business has been stable and many people became interested in trading cards and board games during the pandemic. They're a very small business with 3 employees, and they noted that many of the youth that like to play games there often rely on public transit, including the bus 219 on Century Avenue. Generally, they really spoke highly of how tight-knit and safe Oakdale felt to them, and they didn't have anything negative regarding conducting business in Oakdale. So that is where we stand right now with our business visits, and I know that was quite a bit of information. We've got 7 visits over just a few months here. So if you have any ideas for future business visits, feel free to let me know. Feel free to shoot me an email. And if you have any questions regarding these visits, feel free as well.
Are there any more on the docket yet?
Let me think. I believe we have one that just occurred a day or two ago for the Forefront campus as a whole. And right now, Tong, our representative from the St. Paul Chamber of Commerce, is working on scheduling some new ones. I'm not sure which one of those have been scheduled yet.
All right, we will move to the next order of old business, which is approval of the 2024 Economic Development Commission work plan. And I will again defer to Max.
Thanks, Aaron. So if you recall, late last year, and Chris and Jim mentioned this a bit as well, we worked on creating that Economic Development Commission work plan, which we reviewed with the City Council at the appreciation dinner in February. Since then, the council met in March to discuss all of the work plans, and they did not recommend any additional changes to ours. So with that, the plan okayed, here we're just looking for a simple motion to adopt the 2024 work plan. Since the last meeting was canceled, we haven't quite had the chance to formally adopt it yet. So please feel free to let me know if you have any questions with the work plan or this item. Otherwise, we're looking for a simple motion to adopt the 2024 Economic Development Commission work plan as presented.
Motion to adopt the work plan as presented.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, and next for old business, we will move on to the Oakdale Development Bus Tour reflection.
Yeah, so we can keep this one short and light. So thank you for everyone who was able to attend the development bus tour. As you might know, we held our second ever bus tour on May 7th. We had over 35 people come. We were able to look at development projects around the city and meet with elected officials and different other members of different city commissions and really catch up and talk to each other. I know that many of our EDC members were excited for this, so I just wanted to open the floor, see if anyone has any suggestions to help us make it better in the future, or if they have any interesting takeaways.
I thought it was just great. It was done well. We hit all the high spots, I think. I don't think we missed anything. I thought it was just a very good get-together, and I think it was good for us and good so that we know what's going on. I mean, you ride by these places, you see them construction, you wonder who, when, where, and what. But this helped. This is really good. And then in my business, of course, people think I'm the guru of the top guy in the community here. And they're asking me questions all the time. Well, this helps. Now I can tell them exactly what we're doing and what's going in. And so it's good. It was a good thing to do.
I agree with that. It was really informative. I thought the presentation was easy. I mean, it was pleasant. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of information. I was actually trying to take notes, and I had to give up on a few times. Couldn't keep up because there's so much information being presented. It was good to see all these projects in person that maybe I hadn't been able to go see on my own just yet, and seeing what's up. Like the I think it was the public works site. Just to see that's huge, and hear the status of that, and then it was good to get a chance to even talk with some of the staff. Like the chiefs were here. Police chief, fire chief. It was nice, even just if all I could do is say hi to him. It was just nice to have that time.
And the police chief was there too, I believe.
He was, yeah. Both of them. Yeah.
I like the event because it gives us the opportunity to ask questions and have conversations and develop relationships with city officials as well that we don't get to see on a regular basis.
That's right, yeah.
Any other comments? All right, well, we will move to new business, and our only matter of new business is the Oakdale Zoning Code Update Project for commercial and industrial standards, and I'm going to again defer to Max.
All right, thanks, Aaron. This one's close to my heart, and it's a big project that we've been working on over in the Community Development Project. So the zoning code isn't something we always bring to the EDC. Your mileage may vary with how much in your personal life or your business you've worked with city codes or permitting processes. So we're trying to look here for sort of that business perspective as we look at some of our zoning code. Just for anyone who's not familiar, the city zoning code is a collection of ordinances that guides what land uses are allowed in Oakdale, whether that's housing, commercial, industrial, et cetera, where they can be built, what site features need to be there, and what amenities should be present. The areas we're looking at in particular, and we're looking for some input from the EDC on, include commercial and industrial zoning districts, general building performance requirements, signs and signage, or just if you've gone through a building permit process or needed a conditional use permit process, what did that look like? Was it hard? Is there any way we can improve our processes? So some of the goals for this project include updating and streamlining the ordinance to improve the general development process, improving user friendliness, whether that's an illustration showing how a building setback should look and helping identify what these sometimes complicated ideas look like on a site, modernizing definitions and making sure that our uses are up to date with what we're seeing in the market these days, and then ensuring that we're consistent with state laws, federal laws, any judicial rulings, and our comp plan. So we're pretty early in this process. We're working on wrapping up the code diagnosis with our consultant, HKGI, who's based out of Minneapolis. And what they're working on is kind of looking at our code, telling us, we think that this could be improved, and these features are good, these features need some work, here's what could be improved. But we want to make sure that we're covering all bases. We're trying to go to our commissions who might know certain areas better than we do as staff and make sure that we're understanding that. We'll start some public input soon. We're going to connect with some of our builders who have built in Oakdale recently. People who've gone through permitting processes, start drafting some revisions, run them by our council and our commissions, and then eventually we're looking at the end of the year to adopt these revisions. So I just have quite a couple questions here for the EDC, and they're really meant to generally guide what we should be looking for from a very broad perspective as we look at our zoning code. So I'll just go through these quickly, and they're in the packet as well. But just if any of these, feel free to answer in any order. If any of these come to speak to you and something you might have experienced in Oakdale or a different city recently. So we've got, what should city staff look for from a business perspective when just looking at code changes? What uses do you want to see more or less of in Oakdale, particularly in terms of commercial and industrial uses? How do you feel about existing commercial and industrial areas in Oakdale? How's the access, features? Is there enough parking, too much, too little? What signs work well? Do we have too many electronic signs, not enough? How are our billboards? Should we have more sandwich boards, et cetera? How is our permitting process or a permitting process in another city? Just have you gone through that before? What frustrations do you have? What went well? And what else should we consider? This is a big project and it touches a lot of areas. So just if any of those questions resonate with something that you've experienced or have thought about, just we're hoping to open up the discussion on that.
And Max, if we have ideas or thoughts after today's meeting, we can certainly email them to you, correct?
Of course.
Awesome.
The first thing that comes to my mind is if there's a consideration or an allowance for exceptions to code. So I'm just thinking of a situation, I'm kind of making this up, just based on family members and that. So if somebody wants to have a small business in their home, what would constitute a type of business that would require adherence to a code? So like a hair salon, for example, would be probably some health issues, I suppose. Or would it? Because if they're just cutting somebody's hair at their kitchen table versus having a regular business where they're, generating income to file a tax return, those kind of considerations. If they come to the council or if they come to this body to say, what do I need, or what this code is in my way, what can we do to accommodate that? Is there a process for that type of consideration? So I think it's really just having a process, but that's just an example of something that would use that process.
Yeah, that's actually something we've heard from a few people, including a few members of council, is looking at we call those home occupations, so being able to run a business out of your home. That's actually oftentimes, if we get those permits, I'll process that and walk through the applicant on how to get to that point. So we're looking to improve that. And the thing with home occupations is, like, we did permit a salon recently, and we can condition certain things with that. We want to make sure they, for example, have a cosmetology license, so they're not just cutting hair over a sink, and they have the proper equipment and meet those health codes. It's just always important with the home occupations to find at what point does it become too intense for a home. Like, you probably don't want to operate a milling operation or start manufacturing something from your garage. Or perhaps the neighbors wouldn't like that too much. So that's definitely something we want to narrow in on here. And yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, and feel free to add additional comments on that if you have any.
Right, thanks.
Could you comment on, in the opening paragraph, Chapter 2, land use, or actually point 3, I guess it would be. Oh, no, it says policy 3. Another priority of the comprehensive plan is to identify opportunities to amend the zoning ordinance to promote housing reinvestment. I've been reading that that is happening on a national basis. I've just read a couple of different articles and what's happening is that in an effort to increase affordable housing and more housing units, which nationally there's a big shortage, that's why prices are so high. Really a lot of communities, they, like Lake Elmo, for instance, we won't, they don't want to zone things to have multifamily housing units, and they feel that attracts residents that are less than desirable or whatever for their tawny suburb. And so this is something that's playing out at the city level and communities like Oakdale. So is that true? And I noticed that you called that out. So you're talking about housing reinvestment. Define that. Is that what you're getting at?
Sure. Is that in the memo or the PowerPoint slide?
No, it's right on the very front page of when it's introduced, the top paragraph on the background.
Sure.
Yeah, it says, it's like the second sentence, another priority of the comprehensive plan is to identify opportunities to amend the zoning ordinance to promote housing reinvestment.
Yeah, I think historically, reinvestment in housing in Oakdale, sometimes that's redevelopment. So if there's a project that the city council feels would be a good opportunity to look at housing, we want to take a look through this process and make sure that our processes are up to date with what we're seeing in other cities, and while still having standards and making sure that we're getting projects that meet our code and meet the needs and desires of the community in Oakdale, that our permitting process makes sense and our requirements are up to date with what we're seeing in similar cities. The housing reinvestment component of the comprehensive plan, we've also seen in the past used to try to promote people to continue to invest in their existing housing stock, whether that's redoing the siding of a home or even on the commercial end, promoting people to reinvest in their existing commercial buildings and keep that looking up to date.
So it's your understanding that that's really not that issue. The term housing reinvestment is different than how development of new housing and rezoning sections that used to be zoned 1 acre lots 2 down to half it, you know what I mean, that kind of thing. That doesn't fall under that.
Yeah, so we're looking more at technical updates here. There very well could be some policy decisions, but we're generally not looking to do explore like a full citywide rezoning or anything like that. We're looking more at our processes and individual requirements.
Okay.
So not so much new kinds of housing in this district, but more what are the requirements there? Are they fair and are they up to date?
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. I was just curious.
Okay. We're done.
Yes.
We're done.
Yes, we are done. We will move on to staff liaison updates. And Max, do you have any updates for us today?
Sure.
We have a lot. We've talked about a lot.
Yeah, so I don't have too many staff liaison updates today. I want to note that right now we're doing our parks system plan study. So most likely in one of the next upcoming EDC meetings, we'll likely bring that to you and ask for some input on our park system and how we can make that better in Oakdale, how that relates to businesses or just general reinvestment in Oakdale. So you can expect that in the future, and please keep an eye, this was mentioned by Chris as well, but on the Facebook, we'll have additional surveys for that park project. So we want to make sure as many people get those as possible. But yeah, that's one of our major projects right now. Otherwise, I'm happy to take any questions if there's any developments you see around town or just general updates community development wise.
One thing that I guess I could just say, I don't know if we're going to end with it, but we did have a conversation with the new landlord in that Bergen Plaza, Hempel, and they were very energetic, eager to kind of spruce it up a little bit. We were able to get some new signage for CCF Bank there. Still have a little problem with the electrical, trying to get it wired in and everything, so they're just there. They don't light up or anything, but they were, seems like they're going to be really good landlord for the whole, everyone around there, and just try to modernize it maybe a little bit and work with all the
new owners, is that correct?
Yep, as of last week. Yep.
Okay. Oh, yeah, okay.
So I was very, very impressed. So it's exciting for that area. You know, the signage, right? The sandwich boards are people driving slow, trying to see what's on there. So it's exciting.
All right. Well, we will move to commissioner updates, and we'll start with Robert down on the end.
I don't have anything.
All right.
I wanted, Max already knows, but this will be my last meeting. I served on Planning Commission for 3 years, and I've been here 2 years. Have some challenges in my business right now. I own a business in St. Paul, Express Employment. I expanded last year in July, and it's been a little rough sledding. So I need to turn my attention to that. And so I thought Max had notified me that, I could be reappointed for another 2-year term. I thought about it, and I thought maybe it's time to step down on like Frank. I'm just kidding. Head boss. But, under different circumstance, I probably would have done another term, but just, I think, important for me to focus on my business and that kind of thing. But it's been a pleasure to serve with you all, and I've learned a lot, and it's been a great experience. So,
Yes.
yep.
I have nothing to add, but thank you, Bob, for your service.
Great. Just a reminder, Oakdale Summerfest is the last weekend of the month. They are full for volunteers, but it starts on Thursday, so please attend.
All right. Hard to follow up with that, so I won't. Thanks, Bob, for joining us.
I jumped the gun a little bit with my update on the Bergen Plaza, so that's all I had.
What do you got for us, Frank?
I don't have anything. We're having a chamber meeting tomorrow, and the speaker I got is a rah-rah type speaker. He's a, what do you call him, a personal trainer type guy. That's not the right word. He's motivational. There we go. He's a motivational speaker. And I hear he's pretty good, but I don't know that. So, and if you're free, come on to the meeting. It's going to be at the forefront forefront really. So anyway, that's all I got.
All right, and with that, I will ask for a motion to adjourn.
The motion we adjourn.
Second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, the motion carries, and the meeting is adjourned. Thank you.